Hi, Mike's Carburetor Parts here. In this video I'm going to rebuild a Carter YS one-barrel carburetor, which is typically found on Jeeps, military Jeeps. They use these, and also the YS for, I think, basically a replacement. At any rate, we're going to disassemble it, we're going to clean it, soak it in carburetor cleaner, and then we're going to put it back together. Hopefully it'll help you when you're ready to rebuild yours. So first of all, we're going to take off the metering rod diaphragm. This is the cover here. If you save your parts in groups, you'll have much easier time getting it back together. Also, take plenty of digital pictures as you take it apart, so in case you forget how things go, to put it back together. I especially like doing that for linkage, because I always have trouble getting linkage back the way it should. So, and watch out this spring. There's two springs, they're different sizes, so you want to be sure and make sure that spring goes back here, the right spring. We'll take the diaphragm out, and metering rod, where'd it go? It's still in there. Okay. Take the metering rod out, like so. Okay. Now take out the metering rod jet. Let's see, I don't know if I'm going to get it with this. It's way down in there. A different screwdriver. Now these may not come out real easy. This one is, but it's been out before. If it doesn't come right out, if it doesn't break loose, take your screwdriver, take an old screwdriver you don't mind messing up, and hit it with a hammer a few times to break it loose. That might help. So that's the metering rod jet right there. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is, let's see, let's take the intake fitting off, and here is the fuel filter screen that goes in it. Don't lose that. If you can't find one, I believe we do have them. If you can't find one, be sure you have an inline fuel filter. Keep the crud out of your carburetor. Then we'll take the float ball off. Float ball top, I should say. Okay, I broke this screw loose earlier. Not very, well, it's this one here. Not in a real good place for a screwdriver to get to. Okay. Now you want to be careful. Don't turn this upside down yet. Take your gasket off. In here is a check ball and check weight. First the check ball, and then the check weight's on top of that. That's for the exhaust, for the discharge right here. You got a little discharge tube, and what that does is it stays closed so that your carburetor doesn't siphon gas when it's just sitting there and idling. So there we go. We take those out, don't lose them. We do carry both. The kit comes with the check ball, and I'm not sure about the check weight offhand, but if not, we do have check weights. Let's well, we got this off. Let's take the float and pin off. Check the float by hand up and down and make sure it's not binding or you don't feel a rough spot. Look at your float pin and make sure it's not, doesn't have grooves in it, which would make your float not go up and down like it should. Take the needle out. This is a spring-loaded needle, and what that does is you put the spring in there. It's helpful that when you're on rough roads, it helps keep the float from jumping up and down on a rough road. And we'll take the seat out. That of course will come in the kit, and it does have a gasket on it. This does not come out. Okay, and that's it for that. I'm going to suggest not taking the valves out unless you got corrosion or it's binding. There's too much probability that the screws will break. If you do need to take it out, grind the screws on the threaded end flush with the shaft, and then they'll come out a lot easier. So we'll put that over there. And okay, let's remove the accelerator pump diaphragm. There's a spring in here, so be careful it don't pop out and get lost. There's a spring, and if you can see this shorter spring goes in the accelerator pump diaphragm, this one, and this one goes in the medium rod diaphragm. So we're going to put this together over here. We're going to take the accelerator pump diaphragm off, which will be replaced. Okay. Okay, next thing we'll take off is we'll disconnect the throttle body. This number you'll find stamped on here is a casting number, has nothing to do with the carburetor number. These originally had a tag on them, which are often missing. Fortunately, I believe we have one kit that fits all the YS 1 barrels, so you'll be okay there. Come on. Okay. There's the throttle body. The gasket. Okay, this is a check valve cover, strainer, and check valve. That right there with the, careful of the strainer filter. Okay, very short. Don't think we have one of those, I'm not sure. Let's look. This is the check valve. Okay, so that's going to be the inlet part of it. So there's a little check ball in there. Okay, put that together over there. Okay, so that's it, completely taken apart. So now what we're going to do is we're going to clean it with, I use Kim Dip, and we'll put in there about 4 hours. Be sure don't put in too long. Most cleaners will discolor your carburetor if you leave it in too long. So I'm not going to leave it in there overnight. 4 hours should be enough. Okay. You may have to use a wire brush on some of it to get any corrosion off. The other thing I like to do is, and most important thing to do is while you have it apart, is to clean the passages, the small passages out. Now you can use, one thing I like to use is the carbon choke cleaner. Spray it in the hole and make sure it comes out this discharge here. Do that with all the passages, makes it go through. Here's a very small passage. You want to spray through that. Use your air gun also. Just make sure they're really clean. Also, we have these nylon brush kits that work really well for cleaning out these passages. Ethanol gets in there and cakes it up. So you want to clean out all these little passages as much as possible. Especially these real tiny ones here. These are probably vacuum holes, maybe for the idle. So you want to be sure they're all cleaned out. Like I say, we do carry these really nice brush set for that type of thing. Okay, so let's clean it and then we'll come back and put it all together. Okay, let's get this carburetor back together. First thing we want to do is get the inlet check valve here. Be sure it shakes loose. I believe there's a new one in the kit. Okay, don't forget the gasket on here. The strainer goes in there. Tipping the carburetor the other way so it doesn't, strainer doesn't fall out of the plug. Okay. There we go. And then we're going to get the throttle body back on here. And like so. Okay, there's those two screws. Whoops. Alright, we're going to put the idle mixture screw in there. This little tab goes towards the carburetor. And then we got this little O-ring. That's to keep from the vacuum leaking, and that little tab I was pointing out keeps it all in place. You bottom it out, turn it back out 1.5 to 2 turns. That's your initial. When the engine gets warmed up, you will set the idle, and then you will turn this in a quarter turn time till RPM drops, and then you turn it back out a quarter turn. Or put a tachometer on there and get it just to the smoothest idle at the proper RPM. Okay, so there we got that. Let's work on the float part. And this tab here sets the float drop, and this tab here sets the float level. But first we got to put in the needle in the seat. The seat has a gasket on it. Okay, and put the needle in there, and the needle has the spring that goes in it, and then the little shaft that goes on the top, just like so. And that's spring loaded so that the float won't bounce so much when you're off-road, but you probably won't be taking your Jeep off-road much, but anyway. If you're out there showing off, you probably want this kind of needle in there. We'll set the float level without the gasket being on. We'll measure from here to the top of the float, and we'll measure 1/4 of an inch. And if it's off, you bend this little tab in here, but keep it away from the needle. Do not put any pressure on the needle when you bend it. Just squeeze it a little bit, or take it off and squeeze it. Just don't put any pressure on the needle. Okay, and then we'll put the gasket back on there. Oh, first we'll put the check ball and check weight in the main discharge here. Okay, that keeps the check ball closes off the discharge, so that at idle or when it's turned off, the carburetor doesn't suck fuel through here and empty out your carburetor. If it leaks, it will suck, and you're losing fuel or end up with a lot of fuel in the intake manifold. That might be it. And what you want to do is take a drift punch and tap it lightly so that it forms a good trough at the bottom. Okay, now we'll put the accelerator pump diaphragm on, and that will go in here like this little tab. That's what you want to look for. Goes in just like that. Okay, and then the spring will go right in here. The smaller of the two springs, and we'll line up the tab. Didn't do so good there. Get back on there. compress that spring. See if we can get a screw or two started here. Be sure you don't damage your diaphragm. I don't think you can buy the diaphragm separately from the kit. Okay, now we will put in the metering rod and metering rod diaphragm. First we've got to put in the check valve. Or the jet, rather. Sorry. Then we'll put in the metering rod. And let's see, it will go just like this. Let's tip the carburetor over this way so it doesn't fall out while I'm trying to get it in there. Okay, there we go. That lined up. The longer of the two springs. And get the holes lined up. Okay, don't know where this stuff goes, but there, fit one right into my pocket. What are the odds? Okay. Okay, then we're going to put the filter screen in there. Don't forget your gasket. Don't use any Teflon tape on this. Okay, get the proper wrench and tighten that up. I don't necessarily tighten everything up too much, as this is a just a demonstration carburetor. Now, in case I didn't mention before, I don't take the valves off, or at least I don't recommend you taking the valves off unless you have a good reason to. Too easy to break them. If you do have to take them off, grind the threaded in flush with the shaft, and then they should come out fairly easy. Okay. And then also I might mention that you don't want, now these don't seem to have too much trouble, but what you don't want is the shaft too worn, and if it is, you're going to lose. Yeah, this, you know what you might do here, this is loose right here. if you can get it in the vise just right, and then take a drift punch and hit that a few times to mushroom this out a little, or even just hit it on the edge here, and that'll tighten that up. But the shaft needs to be tight, and the best way to test it after you get on the vehicle is try to move it up and down and see if it changes RPM. If it does, your shaft is too loose. Shaft could be worn, or the carburetor itself. In this case, the carburetor is cast iron, so I would suspect the shaft. Although I haven't seen these too badly worn as old as they are, so shouldn't be much of a problem for you, I wouldn't think. Okay, so that's it. You can buy parts for these at mikescarb.com. I'll put some links in the description for this stuff. And I do appreciate you watching my videos. I hope this helps you on your Carter YS 1-barrel carburetor. Thank you.